Morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our ninth monthly webinar series. We have alerted you that this session is being recorded, not for commercial purposes, but for purposes of sharing knowledge with others who are not able to join us today. Today we are hosting Charlotte Diary of a Muzungu. For those who follow Charlotte, Charlotte and I share the same values when it comes to sustainable development of tourism. We are both passionate about training and empowering our communities and empowering stakeholders in the space of sustainable development of tourism. Charlotte reminds me of my famous little statement about doing your little thing with great love, right? I think that's from Mother Teresa. We cannot always do great things, yeah, but we can always do small things with great love and make a difference. And that is what her response was when she was asked, how are you able to do all these things that you do, mobilizing all these faith women and working with communities around the world to alleviate poverty? And she said, we cannot do great things, but we can all do small things with great love. And if we all do small things with great love, the collective becomes big. And so, yes, Charlotte does small things with great love in sustainable tourism. We do small things with great love, and together we make an impact. So today we are here to look at another interesting topic in sustainable tourism, and we are exploring the space of digital marketing and responsible tourism. I am not a guru in this place, but I can share some of my observations that will also enable, as Charlotte is making her presentation, she will probably highlight some of these areas. I want to start by saying that we all know that digital marketing is a powerful tool or conduit for businesses to communicate their commitment to responsible tourism. It is a powerful tool and a powerful conduit that all businesses that are committed to sustainability, yeah, can use to communicate their commitment to responsible tourism. I cannot emphasize more the power of the digital space and the Internet of Things. It is indeed correctly been referred to as the fourth industrial revolution. The Internet of Things is the fourth industrial revolution. That's how big it is. That's how it's driving. It's driving everything else that we know today. And our big question today then is in the space of sustainable development of tourism. How do we harness, how does digital marketing, how can it bridge the gap between conventional marketing and responsible communication and storytelling? Because today we are talking a lot of storytelling and not just marketing. So how can this digitalization, right, in the marketing space bridge this gap and still achieve the objectives for which it is meant to achieve, which is to inform? I think it's to inform, to educate, and to inspire. This is what this space is all about, and that's what marketing is all about: inform, educate, and inspire. How can we do that and still remain within the confines and space of remaining conscious and responsible, while being applying everything around digital marketing, which is the creativity that comes with it. It's all very captivating when we see what we do with communication using the digital space. In tourism, you see breathtaking visuals of places And sometimes we want to find the fine line between over sanitizing. Yeah, you see a space the way it's been presented in the digital space and what it is in reality. Where do we draw the line so that we are realistic in this space? How do we use it not to brainwash, but to give engaging and compelling content, so that digital marketing is not used to sanitize spaces or to brainwash or to create unrealistic realities for travelers. Charlotte, you probably know better, but I have come across in literature around digital marketing the rise of remarketing using digital marketing, which means they gather a lot of information from different spaces and they package it for purposes of remarketing. How do we do that and still remain authentic and do not compromise the information? We say that it's about informing, educating, and inspiring at the same time. Okay, and we know that within the digital marketing space, we have also seen the rise of online travel agencies. How do we even link this? How do we look at the space of the OTAs and what OTAs are doing and how they're doing their marketing, and how does it link with that small operator, very small enterprise, VSE? How does it even compete with an OTA that is also trying to promote and sell these spaces? So if you're listening carefully, I'm already talking about issues around how does digital marketing still address questions of equity, yeah, still address questions of inclusion, still address questions of authenticity, still address questions of diversity. If everything is going to, sometimes almost everything looks the same, you're wondering whether you're looking at a beach in Brazil or a beach in Diani when you see what is presented in the digital space. How do you still maintain all these very valuable considerations in responsible tourism while looking at digital marketing? There's certain, we all know that when it comes to the tourism space, yeah, they tell us that change is a constant in tourism and hospitality. How is digital marketing responding to this continuous change in tourism and hospitality? I've already talked about it being a revolution. It's actually a revolution. How is tourism prepared for this revolution? As I finish, I just want to mention that the role that digitalization played in the recovery of tourism post-COVID-19. And this is just emphasizing the power of this space, that communication and digital marketing suddenly became so important, and it became a catalyst in the recovery of tourism post-COVID-19. Having said all this, allow me now to invite the guru herself, Charlotte, to talk to us today about digital marketing and responsible tourism. Charlotte, you are most welcome. I hope you are able to share your screen. Let me see. I can do that right away, Charlotte. Let me make you a
Yes, it looks
co-host.
like I have. Okay, yes, if you can.
I think now you can.
Access. Yeah, perfect. Thank you much.
Yeah.
Can't see what I want to see. Give me 1 second. Okay, hopefully you can see my slides. Thank you very much, Judy. Wow, what an introduction. Thank you so much. It's an absolute honour to be here with you and your brilliant team. I love working with your team. You guys are so always quick, so professional, very supportive. Always a pleasure to interact with you. And thank you so much for inviting me, Judy, because when I say that you push me and you challenge me, I really mean it, but I mean that in a good way. I really love the questions that you ask, and I love everything that you put on LinkedIn, and I feel like we're on a learning journey together. So it's a real honour to be working with you here today. And I don't know if I'm a guru, but I've got a lot of experience, and I'm a practitioner, let's say, and yeah. So and for those of you who know me, I'm you know my blog, but I also have a podcast that I released earlier this year, and we just come to season 1 of 20 episodes, which was very exciting. A lot of work, big learning curve. But you know, it was when I was listening to you just now, Judy, and you were asking, like, you know, how do we foster inclusion and remain authentic and so on. I really believe that audiovisual is a very powerful way of showing that we are the real people really in these places doing whatever it is. You know, that's what sets us apart. I think it is from ChatGPT and all these templates where you can copy and paste across marketing information. And what I've really enjoyed about the podcast is I feel I am my authentic self again, after having done a lot of PR for tour companies, and that's good because that's the bread and butter money, and you know, we all need that sometimes. But reconnecting with nature, being on my walks, you know, out in Kibale Forest, interacting with safari guides, and that's a deeper connection with nature, and that comes through from my content. You can hear that I'm there, and you can hear that I'm excited. Anyway, let me move on to the topic in hand for this morning. So yes, so my name is Charlotte Beauvoisin. I am a blogger, but I'm also a tourism consultant. I do a lot of training as well. I've specialised in digital marketing training over the last few years, and I've worked with the Dutch government, CBI here in Uganda, to develop a multi-module digital marketing training curriculum for tour operators. But we also work with guides, we work with lodges and hotels and destinations as well. And you know what? I've started to feel a bit guilty that we are training people who really don't care about the environment. So I really enjoy the fact that we're here and we're trying to merge digital marketing, which is what I've been doing for a long time, and sustainable tourism, which has always been my passion. So yeah, so here we are, and working out a few of the issues. And I have to say there's lots of pros, there's lots of yeses about digital marketing and the power of it, but I also think there's lots of red flags, there's lots of things that we need to look at and improve on. So this is one of the questions that Judy posed for us to have a look at this morning. Is digital marketing aligning with sustainable tourism? And I know a lot of people have very specific marketing questions, by the way, and digital marketing questions. And I'm happy to take those kind of questions at the end if there's time. But I'm also going to be sharing a presentation that we did in Mombasa at the Sustainable Tourism and Travel event, the summit in Mombasa. And that's some quick tips for everybody who's looking for some actionable insights. Right. Okay, I need to get onto the next page. What am I doing wrong?
Find the arrows.
I'm not seeing the arrows. Oh dear, I'm having a bit of a technical issue day, one of those days.
Okay, use the arrows on your computer. The forward arrow on your computer.
Oh, there it is. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So before we get into the topic at hand. I just wanted to give you a quick summary of what we're going to talk about today, and I will start off with a reminder of traditional and digital marketing. You know, what are some of the differences, and what are some of the features and benefits of each approach, and why is it that we keep going on about digital marketing more than any other kind of marketing? I then like to ask you what you think about bucket lists. Are they good for sustainable tourism? And you know, they've been trending for a long time. In fact, they are still trending in mainstream mass tourism, aren't they? And then influencers. Well, we're all influencers nowadays, aren't we? But are they good for sustainable tourism? And next, we'll move on to the actual topic at hand, and we'll look at whether digital marketing is aligning with sustainable tourism. We'll go through some of the yeses and why that is, and then some of the no's and why that is as well. And then we move on to how digital marketing can promote sustainable tourism. And we're doing some of that, but we're not doing enough of that, in my view. We also then touch on a couple of trends and what impact that they might have on digital marketing and sustainable tourism arena. And finally, we end with some recommendations. And if you've got any questions, please put them in the chat, and we will come back to them a little later on. Okay, so I'd love you to put your answer in the chat, please. What's your view? Out of 5, grading the question, out of 5, do you think digital marketing is aligning with sustainable tourism? And Judy or Michael or one of the STTA team, it'd be nice if you could shout out some of the answers. What, in your view, how are we doing out of 5? Okay, I'm seeing a range. I'm seeing.
We've got one person has voted 1 out of 5. We've got 3 people with 2, 1 person with 4, 1 person with 5, 1 person with 3. Yeah, I put it at 2. The reason is that most digital marketing promotes day events and checklists. Then we've got more 3s coming up, more 4s now, 3 and 4. Somebody has created their own, they've put 6. They will explain to us.
Okay, well, we can just go home then.
Yeah, yeah, we will understand what the 6 means as well. More 3s coming up. I think we're at 3 and 4s, right? Another 3 coming up. Michael, are you telling them? Okay. I think I think that the 3s have it.
The 3s have it. Okay, so we are, could we say we're undecided? Could we say that we remain to be convinced? I don't know. But yeah, middle of the road. Okay. Well, based on the research that I've done, I would give us 2 out of 5. But of course, it is very subjective, isn't it? So while digital marketing has the potential to promote sustainable tourism, current practices often prioritize growth and popularity over sustainability. And I think that is still, we are still doing things generally the old way. And I think what we're doing at the moment with digital is we're just tweaking things, aren't we? I think our strategy is the same that it has been for a long time, but we just add the sustainability policy to the website, and you know, we add in another homestay, and we think it's job done. So
how many people?
Can you please mute your microphone if you're joining us?
Yes.
So there are, if you'd like to study this further, there are a number of industry reports and studies. For example, UNWTO has noted a lack of digital marketing strategies that address sustainable tourism. The International Journal of Tourism Research says that 70% of tourism websites fail to provide sufficient sustainable tourism information. The GSTC, the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, reports limited adoption of sustainable tourism criteria in digital marketing. And Judy, I expect this fits with what you've seen.
Yes.
So just in terms of, I just wanted to refresh us on the differences between traditional and digital marketing. So traditional marketing is, perhaps you can shout out in the chat what I mean by traditional marketing. Can you give us an example of what I might mean? So we're not talking about websites or social media or email. If I say traditional marketing techniques, and we still use a lot of them, what might you think of? Newspapers, yep, newspapers, definitely.
Yep.
We still read them, but they're mostly digital.
Outdoor advertising.
Outdoor advertising, yeah, outdoor advertising. So that could be a billboard or a hoarding at the side of the main road. Printed brochures, yes, anything printed. That could be a flyer, that could be a business card. Yeah, anything printed.
Yeah.
Could also be radio, exactly, television and radio. Thank you, Pollant. Word of mouth. Still exists. In fact, you could say that, you know, social media is the modern form of word of mouth, isn't it? The most powerful form of advertising.
Yeah. I like the one who says expos as traditional marketing. Yeah, that's very traditional. Trade shows and
Very
events.
traditional.
Yes.
But very high carbon footprint. Ow.
Yes.
The flight, the suitcase for the brochures. Okay, great. Okay, so we know what traditional is, and we're not saying it doesn't have a place at all anymore, but the way traditional marketing worked was that it was mass marketing. It was one size fits all, meaning that you generally have one brochure, and it used to be so expensive to print a brochure that you would have to print 1,000 or at least 100 to make it cost effective. With digital marketing, you know, you can just create a PDF and print that. You can do one off, can't you? But we had a one size all approach, and it meant that if somebody picked up your brochure, you didn't know if they were the right person. You didn't know whether your message and the services that you were trying to promote were actually going to land well with them. And but with digital, we can personalize our marketing messages, whether it's on email or finding people on the actual channels that they love, whether it's Facebook or TikTok or what have you. So digital is extremely powerful. We can personalize our marketing messages to a niche. We can target 100 bird watchers if we want to, in a particular town, in a particular country. We can go that niche. Another aspect of traditional marketing is there's a high cost, both environmentally and financially, because when you print brochures, and I used to work in print, traditional print, when I was in London, and that's how I got into marketing actually. And we had 50 shops around the whole of the UK, and when we printed the calendars and the brochures, we would print tens of thousands of them, and we had a whole room that was full of boxes of flyers. And then my job was to get them printed, to put them on the van, and to send them around the whole country. Can you imagine how much money that costs? The amount of space we had for storing everything, and also the carbon footprint of delivering dozens of boxes to 50 locations. But the thing is, stuff went out of date. So if we didn't print and distribute things in a timely manner, the promotion, let's say the Christmas promotion, you know, that would quickly go out of date, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And that can end up damaging your brand, because what happens if you've got a Christmas promotion, you're saying, right, come to this lodge for Christmas and it's only going to cost you 500 shillings per night. Somebody calls you up 6 months later or 2 months later because they picked up your leaflet, and you say, well, hang on, that was just a Christmas promotion. And you say, yeah, but I've seen it. I've got the leaflet. So that can end up misleading, misleading people, can't it? And damaging your brand. But with WhatsApp and all these digital tools we have, I can do a promotion today. I mean, the last few days we've all been busy promoting this event, haven't we? And we've got the time and we've got the location and all that kind of information, and it's instant and it's been at no cost to us. The other thing with traditional print is it's hard to measure your return on investment, whereas with all the social media that we've done, we can measure a lot of it. So Judy, we can look at our LinkedIn, can't we? And we can see how many people have seen our updates, or at least people who've engaged with us and liked and shared, so on. Okay, so those are some of the reasons, that the differences. Just wanted to remind you of those. And then I just want a quick yes, no answer, please, in the chat. Do you think bucket lists are good for sustainable tourism? And these are a few. Bucket lists are super popular, aren't they? We have the Africa bucket list.
Yeah.
That's going to include climbing Kili, watching the Great Migration, and then National Geographic, 50 places of a lifetime. I guess there are so many destinations before you die, and some of them are specific. I saw one that was 30 countries to visit before you get to the age of 30. It was so many different. And and then this is an even more specific one, the Great British Bucket List, 50 UK based things to do before you die. I think that was during COVID when no one could get on a plane. Okay, so see, we've got more people joining.
I've seen others, places to visit before they disappear. Extinction tourism.
Oh no. That's horrible.
Before they disappear.
I think I've seen that one too. Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably one for species to see before they go extinct.
Yeah, before they get extinct. Yeah. Can we get some answers? Are bucket lists good for business? I didn't see any responses there. What do we think? Is it good for sustainable tourism? Yes or no? Yes or no? No.
We had a no generally.
Yes, Sarah says no. Sharon, no. Yeah.
But yes. I like the fact that Sarah has said no in brackets generally, because I'm sure there's a way to rethink this, that we can make it a sustainable tourism bucket list.
Poland says yes.
Sonia
says yes. Joan says sometimes. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, thanks guys.
Yes, no. Okay. Okay.
We'll come.
Okay, there you are, Charlotte. I bet you will address the yeses and the nos and the sometimes as you go.
Okay, we'll do.
They can be made better. They create awareness.
So, is digital marketing aligning with sustainable tourism? Well, I know we were middle of the road with our answers, many of us, but I think there were more no's than yeses overall. I think the biggest problem is that it's the old way of doing things. Digital marketing generally prioritizes increasing tourism numbers. It's all about growth, isn't it? It's all about having more visitors. And so that, you know, that contradicts sustainable tourism principles, doesn't it? There's also a lack of standardization. There are certification programs, but they're not universally accepted standards or certifications for sustainable digital marketing in tourism. And bucket lists really feed in my view, bucket lists really feed into this emphasis on growth, this emphasis to travel more, to see more things. And in fact, when I first started working in tourism in Uganda, so I came here working in conservation as a volunteer, fundraising to address human-wildlife conflict and poaching, elephant and hippo poaching in the national parks. And I took the sideways move into tourism, and I worked for a tour operator for a couple of years around 2011. And I think back on the itineraries that we used to create, and they were back to back. They were exhausting, like a new place most days. And if we had a 14-day tour, and I know this is common, and most tour operators are still doing this, but you might stay at one place, one new place every day, sometimes. Maximum 2 nights at one place. And so I think the bucket list mentality really feeds into that, doesn't it? That you come to Uganda and you do Uganda. You tick everything off your list. And you gorillas tick, chimps tick.
And then you don't come back.
And they don't come back because you've done Uganda, Judy. You've got the stamp.
Yeah.
So yes, so this is a bit of it's a bit of a red flag, isn't it, to be promoting that bucket list mentality, and that's but greenwashing as well. I think digital marketing, you know, is guilty of greenwashing. Digital marketers can be guilty of greenwashing, and we know what that is. That's misleading or exaggerating eco-friendly claims. There's too many people that say they are ecotourism companies just because they go to the bush. That doesn't make you an ecotourism company.
Yes,
You know, it's about your principles.
Yes, Charlotte, if I interrupt you, there's now an EU law, I know you're aware of it, that you will be fined and charged for greenwashing if you present misleading information on sustainability on your green credentials. You will be sent to jail or you will be fined. So it's becoming really strict in the EU now. You can't make those claims of ecotourism and green carelessly without measurable supported reports to show that you are actually responsible. And they're trying to deal with the whole big issue of greenwashing.
Thank you for mentioning this, Judy. Yeah, I haven't studied this yet. I've seen the Good Tourism Institute has done an ebook, haven't they, on trying to make a summary for us. So how would an East African tour operator address this? Is a Ugandan tour operator going to be penalised, or is it for agents?
It's European-based organizations. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
If they make the claims without support, yeah.
So we have to make sure our agent.
Yeah, so at least we will be sure that our agents or agents from Europe are making the correct claims. And I believe that will then rub on, they will start demanding from their suppliers accountability for sustainability credentials. It was going to rub onto, they will seek the same from their suppliers.
And I think that's good for all of us, isn't it? Because even if we are not up to speed ourselves, even if our target audience is not in Europe, if other people are having to abide by these rules, that's going to influence us and everything we do. So thanks for the reminder. I need to get my head around this one. So digital marketing, yeah. When we're promoting sustainable tourism online to attract more visitors, we can unintentionally harm the very destinations and environments that we are trying to promote. You know, by sending people off the beaten track, away from over touristed areas, you know, we could just be shifting the problem, couldn't we?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and many travelers and tourism professionals lack awareness about sustainable tourism practices. So there is insufficient education, and it's our role as digital marketers to try and address that in a consistent manner. Okay. So going back to the bucket lists. Let's go back to the other slide. Sorry, I wanted to ask you another question in the chat. Influencers are everywhere. It's a boom time for influencers, and everyone is everyone is an influencer, whether you have that label or not. So I should have put a picture of you in there, Judy.
I'm not. Yeah.
So what do we think? Are influencers good for sustainable tourism? Yes or no?
Mixed bag.
Mixed bag, yes.
Yeah, I consider it a mixed bag. When used appropriately, when informed appropriately, they can be used to open new areas and spread tourism attractions, areas that have not been visited before, or areas that have less visitation. If they're sent to this, if they go to these areas and talk about them, they can actually divert attention from over-visited areas. In that way, I find that they can be useful for sustainable tourism by promoting diversity of attractions in destinations. But when we send them to the same over-visited places, because we just want growth, like you have mentioned, Charlotte, if our intention for using influencers is growth, and we just send them to these places so that our company can get more people to go there because our company used this influencer, then their inclusion or their involvement in marketing and digital marketing becomes negative in that way. That's my observation.
Interesting, thank you. And this takes me back to about 18 months ago when I was in Nairobi working with and KTB and Amakove, and we did a session funded by the EU project, and we worked with Kenyan influencers, bloggers, content creators, looking at their role in promoting responsible tourism, because there's a huge explosion, as we all know, in influencers. Some have huge followings, some are kind of more micro, you know, they just have a particular niche that they specialize in. But these are people who are really good with digital, they're really good promotion, and they've got a good image and they've got followings and so on. But these are people who've grown up in Nairobi, and they don't know a lot of the issues of how you conduct yourself when you're on safari, how you conduct yourself when you're in the community. And it was a really interesting exercise, actually. But there are so many people who influence things, like, as I say, like everybody's an influencer now, aren't they?
I'm sorry if there's any influencers listening, and I want to say this, that I have seen some influencers in traditional villages. They go to the cultural villages, and these are villages that are like living museums, right? You know, there are villages, there are cultural villages that have been created for a show, And so they're open, they have opening and closing hours. They're almost like a gallery, and you can go there and you have people from the community who are showcasing what they have. But you also have traditional living villages where they're sharing their life as it is. They wake up here and they sleep here and they give birth to their children here, and they go about their daily lives. So you find that in this village, you will find a 1-year-old child and you will find a 90-year-old, because it's a living village. And sometimes I have been disturbed when I have seen some dressing in this kind of villages. And I know that, yes, sometimes it's my dress, my choice. But when we are talking about authenticity, when we demand that authenticity from these villages, we must also then align with the values of these communities as we go into these villages. Like I said, the way you're dressed, and in this village, there's a 90-year-old, there's a father-in-law and a daughter-in-law, and there's a son, and there's a child, and there's a grandchild, and there's all these mixed people in this village. It's also important that we go to these villages and also show respect, so that there's nobody in the village who feels disturbed or concerned by our presence in those particular villages. So, yeah, so I've seen some interesting photos in this village visits, and I don't really blame those who were there and took the photos. I'm concerned about their agencies and their operators that probably, like you say, they did not receive the proper briefing on codes of conduct for visiting certain kind of villages, right?
Absolutely. It's all about the briefing, isn't it? And it's all about,
Yeah.
I mean, even if you were working with an influencer, you know, leave alone for 1 second the sustainable aspect. It's like, if you're working with somebody, you've got to make it very clear what you expect from them. Otherwise, one or both of you is going to get disappointed. But I think from a responsibility and sustainability angle, it's even more important that, yeah, code of conduct, that's the right phrase for it. But I think we're all learning as we go. And honestly, I've made some mistakes. You know, I remember, you know, I visited an orphan tour many years ago, and now I was like, oh, there's no way. You know, you and I talked about this before. Now I understand the impact of those visits. I will not do it, and I will not recommend it. I've made a lot of mistakes, and it's, you know, I've been challenged along the way.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah, there are certain photos and certain that I don't want to see anymore. And yeah, in retrospect, I say, yeah, I did that. I was not aware, but I wouldn't do it again. Yeah, and that's the essence of learning, of continuous learning.
And so, but yeah, so I think influencers can be good for sustainable tourism if they are adequately briefed. But currently, as it is, people are focusing on the look at me, here I am, living my best life on safari in this beautiful lodge. And that's driven by the algorithms, isn't it? You know, if there's a picture of you and you're happy, you know, the way that algorithms work, I think we all know that if there's a picture of a beautiful lodge, it might get 1 like, but it's a picture of you at the lodge, it gets more likes. And the more likes you get, the more the algorithms are going to show it to your friends and family and everyone that you're connected with. So if you want to be popular, if you want to go viral, if you want to get paid to travel, you want your stuff to go viral. So it's understandable, isn't it? Why?
I think there's a comment by Rakin in the chat, and say the downside of influencers is that a good number of them lack tourism knowledge and experience, and it's not their fault. They have probably not been given the right briefing as they embark on this assignment. It requires a little background information. and I'm going to mention something that I know is controversial, and I've seen many people do the walk with lions, but that's for another day. That's for another webinar. Yeah.
Oh gosh,
Wildlife
yes.
wildlife interaction and responsible tourism. I think that's a discussion that a webinar will have for another day. But I know that innocently there are many people who do this and are not aware of that they're working with blood lions. The story behind taming the lions so that we can walk with them is a horrible story that we don't even want to think about. But it looks good on Instagram, that picture, that pose, that everything. And some of us are falling for it. Just yesterday, I came across a poster where a company was promoting an immersion that come and experience the actual ceremony of Ma people somewhere. Come and immerse as you see the actual male circumcision going on. And I'm thinking, really?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
words fail me.
Okay. Yeah.
Posing with lions. Yeah, I think we could have a whole webinar about that, Judy. I would love to be part of that. We've one of the hats that I wear is, as I mentioned, as a trainer, and one of the projects I'm now working on again with CBI, the Dutch government, is helping write a sustainable tourism curriculum. And last week we presented 2 days on product development and niche marketing. And we looked at different niches and good examples and bad examples of sustainable tourism in Uganda. And the issue of petting wild animals came up. Very controversial, but it led me to do a lot of research on the topic. So yeah. Okay. But yes, let's not pet wild lions for the selfie. Let's resist. And it is very, very tempting, isn't it? We're all human.
It's very tempting. I lost a professional friend because I thought we were of the same values, and they went and did this walk, and I just had a conversation and said, really, were you convinced that this was a good thing to do, knowing who you are? And I know the values you stand for in sustainable tourism, and it got them so upset that I judged them.
Oh no!
So it's sensitive issues also. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Quite controversial, but it's an issue that's not going to go away. So we will need to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think there's also a cultural aspect, isn't there? Where if your clients were in Europe, they've got one view, but if your clients are local or regional, they might have another view as well. You might say there are absolutes, but a lot of things are open to cultural interpretation as well, aren't they?
And I think that's what most of the chat is saying, that there's a lot of in-between area, gray area. It's not always the fault of the influencer. How do we get them to know there are ways that we inform them before? And I think this is how companies that use influencers have to be accountable. Yes, they've got to be responsible and accountable, and they should be informed themselves. Somebody else said there are many ways of getting information, so you cannot plead ignorance anymore because there is knowledge and information out there. Yeah.
So the question, Judy, is how do we influence influencers? But
by having sustainable tourism influencers.
Yeah. And I think also it's a topic we could explore in more depth on a webinar like this.
Yes.
But also maybe we need to brainstorm and think about developing a code of conduct and we share it with the different tourism associations, and then they can send it on to the operators and the lodges and so on.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks everyone for your engagement in the chat. Keep it coming. And if you don't agree with us, that's also good. Please, we want to know what everyone's position is on these issues.
Yes.
So so back to our question of whether digital marketing is aligning with sustainable tourism, and on the no side, yes. Okay, so we've covered bucket lists and the selfie culture, and this is an interesting fact for you. Did you know that every year over 150 people die taking selfies because they're doing something rather silly? And in fact, we had a tourist in Uganda who was at the source of the Nile, fell in the water because he's trying to take a photograph, back a bit, trying to get in the shot. He landed in the river and he drowned. So there's another reason why the selfie culture is dangerous and not sustainable. Always looking for the best photograph. But digital marketing can, the takeaway from this is that digital marketing can really contribute to over-tourism, and this can strain local resources, infrastructure, and communities. And we talk a lot more now about the hidden costs of tourism, whereby imagine a small village. So I live on the edge of Kibale National Park. It's famous for chimpanzees, primates, bird watching, butterfly watching, and people are really trying to get into tourism now, but we don't have the infrastructure to support that. Yes, we have a nice road that goes through the forest, which is a shame for the forest because cars are over speeding. But the tourism areas is accessible now, and we have some nice lodges. But if you were to visit the village and community-based tourism projects, they really don't have the infrastructure to support you. They're not getting that investment. Also wanted to mention the tech limitations. We don't talk about the environmental impacts of digital marketing itself because there's high energy consumption. We also have the issue of waste. But sorry, energy, when I say energy consumption, running this laptop now, running my phone, and then there are all these massive servers that are on 24 hours a day, where we have my Dropbox, my Google Drive, that's all hosted. My website, it's all hosted in several different servers around the world. So that also has an energy, has high energy consumption. But e-waste, so e-waste is our old devices. Did you know that there are over 120 million unused mobile phones in our houses, sitting in drawers? I'm guilty of having my spare one because my mum had a spare one. She gave it to me because I was like, oh, what happens if I lose my phone, drop my phone, I was going to give it to someone, and then I thought, no, what about me? What if I lose mine? And I didn't realize how big an issue this was until I was interviewing Ian Redmond, OBE, who's a well-known conservationist, British conservationist, and he introduced me to Fairphone. Fairphone is an alternative to Apple and all the big Android phones that we know, because the coltan and the other highly polluting materials that are mined from the Congo are used in a recycled and responsible fashion. And he's trying to get away from there's actually a campaign out at the moment. Are you aware of this, Judy? There's a campaign against the new iPhone that's come out. It's by a group in the Congo who are trying to draw the world's attention to the mining and the way that mining for resources in the Congo is really fueling conflict. And you have these dismal scenes of people and a lot of kids in these open mines and no security and no shoes, and it's absolutely pitiful. And we are all unknowingly all part of that and fueling that. So I'm going off on a tangent now, but it is related. We are by having resources that we're not using, we are unwittingly fueling what's happening in the Congo. So, but yeah, Fairphone, when you get a second, Fairphone is a very interesting website that's looking at how you think. So if you have devices, you know, it's encouraging you to recycle them responsibly and reuse them and so on. E-waste. Now, I don't know what your view is on this one, Judy. I was talking to a tour operator the other day, somebody that I know quite well, who really strives to do the right thing by the community that he works with, and he probably classed himself as an environmentalist, and he's helped build a school, and he's very pleased with the fact he's just got 16 recycled computers brought in by his clients. And he's like, you know, now the kids from the village can learn how to use computers. And I think that's great. And I don't want to deny anyone that chance, especially if there's no alternative. But I did think in Uganda that you're not supposed to bring in those materials. I mean, what's your view on these?
I don't know what others do, but I am involved in a school in the Mara. And those who want to support with computers, we give them suppliers quotation from Kenya, and we tell them where to come and buy the computers in Kenya and take them to the school, but not to transport e-waste from another place in Europe to Africa in the name of helping, because these computers, I have seen them in the past, and that's where you learn the hard way. They are brought and they break down, and once they break down, that's it. They don't even have a long span because they've just been fixed to operate for a while. I think technology has enabled the world to produce fairly good, affordable new computers. And if your intention is really to help, it's very okay to get a supplier from the country where you want to help and buy the computers in that country where you want to help. So instead of bringing in 30 computers that will break down in a few months, come and buy us 10 new computers and we'll get another 10, and this 10 will last for a long time. So this is the philosophy that I use with those who want to support this school in Masai Mara. We know good suppliers. Just come here and we'll show you. And you can go, if you don't trust, you can go and pay directly. Yeah.
That is fantastic. I love it.
But we cannot continue allowing the transportation of e-waste into Africa, of old computers, in the name of supporting our children to learn computers. We care for them. Let's come and buy them good computers right from here.
But it is another case, isn't it, of people not knowing until they have the conversation with someone like you who's really seen the impact over the longer term. I mean, when I go to visit my family in the UK, you know, a couple of times I've had my aunt say, "Oh, I've got an old laptop. Would you like it?" But of course, the downside is that when this laptop, you know, dies in Uganda or has a problem, you probably won't be able to get the parts either.
Yeah, and you know, when they bring these computers, mainly they benefit, they target children in rural, remote areas, and it even becomes more difficult to then dispose even that e-waste.
Absolutely,
and then you find them
you can dispose of it.
Yeah. So yeah.
So
yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. That's great information. The other issue, of course, with digital marketing is that not all local communities or SMEs have equal access to digital technologies. You know, do you have a device? Do you have internet access? Do you have power? So it's a very uneven playing field, doesn't it, on the face of it? And lastly, I wanted to mention that, you know, by over-relying on digital marketing, it can depersonalize the message and the experience, whereas, you know, what we want is something that's authentic and personal, and we need that more than ever, don't we? Because there's so much noise out there, and AI is everywhere as well. Okay.
Yeah, and I think we should appreciate spaces like TikTok now that has allowed to make the digitization and digitalization, digital marketing more personal, because it's actually real-time videos. You see real persons and where they are real time and what they're doing. So the spaces like that are not to mention that they may still have the limitations that you did mention earlier on, but at least they have removed the depersonalization of digital marketing, because now you can see real time what is going on. Yeah.
And just thinking back to the slide that we had where we compared traditional and digital marketing. When I first got into marketing in, pre-social media, which isn't actually that long ago, if you did video marketing, you would hire an extremely expensive professional videographer, which would cost the equivalent of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So you had very expensive equipment, and then you would plan and write the script, and so the whole process would take weeks, wouldn't it? And then you would storyboard it like it was like a proper TV program. And it would be like a half-an-hour documentary, and it would take weeks to edit, and then how do you distribute it? So it was phenomenally expensive. And then you'd still be at the point where you didn't actually know whether somebody watched it after all that effort. So so I feel I do feel overall that digital marketing is a lot more democratic than traditional marketing.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I love that. Yes, it is. It is more democratic. Yes, it is. It allows. I've observed one particular lodge in the Mara that started using their staff members as the influencers. So whether you are in the kitchen, whether you are in the front office or in the bar, you would record yourself and doing something at work, whether you are in housekeeping. And so when you say democratic, that came to mind. So there is not one person within the organization that has the monopoly of sharing the information concerning the lodge, the marketing department, creating content, but everybody's been empowered, been taken through some training on how to do the content, and they are not told which content to do when. They create the content on the go, and to their surprise, the surprise of this lodge, their TikTok account has the most following of all their accounts, and the content is created by staff who work there and share their daily lives with their guests and the people. This is what you expect when you come here. This is the kind of cocktails and how we mix them, right? And sometimes they tell their stories, like you know what, this is what sustainable tourism has done for me. I will never have been this what are they called, mixologists, but today I am a girl from the village, my rural village, who came here as working in the kitchen. But today I work in the front, I work in the bar, and I'm a butler, and see what I am able to do today. So there's just inspiration in everybody. So when you mentioned the word digital marketing has democratized marketing, I believe that 100%, it's true, it's happening. It's happening. And those who have embraced it are not spending as much money. Their budgets of bringing that, like you say in the old, producing a video would cost you an arm and a leg. But today, all you have to make sure is your staff have got phones with good cameras, and that's it.
I believe very strongly that we need to empower staff in helping with our marketing. It's one of the exercises that we often do in our workshops. Is some staff are more engaging than others, but if you've got, of course, if you've got reception staff and bar staff, for example, who spend time chatting with the customers, and they're lively, and you notice your guest playing with their smartphone and taking pictures, and perhaps you hear them mention they're on Instagram or something, you know, get them to tag your lodge, get them to tag your company if you're a tour operator.
It's
And
powerful.
yeah, it's extremely powerful. So they are your ambassadors, and they can also be asking your guests to write reviews as well. So when somebody says that was just, I just absolutely love that nature walk, then you can say,
Yeah.
well, we'd love you to give us a 5 out of 5 on TripAdvisor. We'd love you to write
Which also reminds me, brings to mind the whole how the digital space has transformed the feedback mechanisms. We can go to TripAdvisor and all those other places, but now you can have your guests tag you along in what they have said, and that is feedback. They have given you feedback without filling that form in the room, right? But they have given you valuable feedback already. So it has also transformed the feedback mechanisms. That's getting the views from our guests. We don't have to ask them questions. We just have to get them engaged, and they will say more than they would have said if we gave them a checklist.
Very true. Yes.
Yeah.
I like what you're saying about the kind of the talking heads, you know, getting the behind the scenes stuff that you mentioned, Judy. I think that's so powerful. I think that's so much more interesting, because this kind of traditional top-down approach where the company sets a strategy and then the boss is the one to say, yes, you can say that, no, you can't. It's so bland, it's so boring. But if I can see what it's like in the kitchen, you know, when they're getting busy for an event,
when they're getting the meals ready, and the chef is telling you the inspiration and the story behind the meal that they are serving today. That doesn't need the head of marketing at corporate level to approve.
And I think it all ties in with the values of sustainable tourism. It's about being authentic. It's about being accountable. It's about being transparent. You know, if the business, the hotel is prepared to show us behind the scenes in the kitchen, I think that, you know, it means it's a real well-run kitchen, doesn't it?
Yes, it's a well-run kitchen. And they also show you in this particular lodge, they will also show you their waste management. So it's back of house, it's front of house, they will take you, staff will show you where they live. This is where I retire to every evening after coming from work. So you have a 360 view of the property by just following, and that's how they gained so much following. The ranger and the tracker will be out there showing you the things that you least expect to see while you're on safari, but they will be talking about the plants. They'll be talking about what do they call it? They have an interesting name for it. Yeah, so yeah, it's the digital space is actually digital marketing has enabled us to show more than the rooms and the front of and the lounges. You can go behind the scenes and have a full real-time view of the place, and you can also understand a little bit about the business and its values just by watching this. And that's the democratization that you talked about. That's very powerful. Charlotte, did I lose you? I think we have lost Charlotte as we wait for her to come back. I will look at some of your comments and the questions. Have we started asking our questions on the chat? And let us know what you think about the conversations and the presentation and the questions that you would like Charlotte to answer. I think we're getting to the point where we're going to respond to questions. So feel free to ask your questions as we let Charlotte back in. Even some of the conversations that we have been having, would love to hear your perspectives about About the same. Yeah, did I get, how can digital marketers ensure that, okay, Charlotte, you're back.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Would you mind letting me share the screen again,
Oh,
please?
okay. All right. I will do that. I will do that just now, Charlotte.
I'm really enjoying our conversation, Judy, but I'm just aware of the time and just thinking that people might have to leave and have
Yeah,
other meetings and so on.
Start looking at the questions. I'm trying to find you and make you a co-host. Okay, I think now you can share. Already we have a question, Charlotte. How can digital marketers ensure that the content they promote about a destination accurately reflects local communities and cultures without resorting to stereotypes and idealization? Good question, which is part of what we've been discussing all along.
Right, okay.
Are you able
sorry,
to?
sorry, I'm just setting up my screen again.
Okay.
Sorry, would you mind asking me that again, please, Judy?
Yeah, it's a question on the chat. It says, how can digital marketers ensure that the content they promote about a destination accurately reflects local communities and cultures without resorting to stereotypes and idealization? You can actually read it. It's the last comment on the chat. The question is right there.
Well, you know, I think it starts with the community, doesn't it? It starts with talking to them and really having a deep understanding of how they want to be represented. So that's, you know, that's what I would first start with. Is this from a tour company or an activity provider? I can't see the chat for some reason.
This is from Poland Travels. Yes.
Poland, yeah.
If there, yes. Yeah. Yeah. How do they ensure
I think
that
it's
the
also
content
about is authentic and doesn't speak to different stereotypes.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's about talking to the community and understanding how they are willing to be represented and whether they think that represents their values. I think it's also about talking to previous visitors as well and asking them what spoke to them, what you know, on a personal level, what really appealed to them, and trying to get a balance between those.
And I would add that, you know, today the corporate world talks a lot about know your customer. The banks are very particular about this. They want to know everything about you when you bank with them. But everybody, even in law, we know that ignorance is no defense. So you should know who you're dealing with and what you're getting yourself into. I would say the same if we want, if marketing, to ensure that digital marketers have the correct content. My point would be know your community. Know the communities that you're working with, know the communities of place, right? The same way you know the product of place, the same way you can talk about climbing Kilimanjaro or climbing Mount Kenya, the same way you can talk about experiencing the Great Migration, be able to talk about the communities of place. What are these communities, the pastoral communities, the host communities in Masai Mara? What are the current issues that they're dealing with around tourism? How have they embraced tourism? What are their concerns about tourism? What are their concerns about visitors? How can tourism transform their lives? What has happened that is positive in their communities from tourism? What are the issues that tourism is still dealing with in these destinations? When you are aware of the community of place, know your community, you will represent them as accurately as you describe the migration experience, as accurately as you describe the morning drive, game drive, or the walk, as accurately as you describe any other attraction that you are putting in your itinerary. To start by knowing your community of place. Do not ignore your community of place, because when content is disconnected from the communities of place, then we are talking about stereotyping, serialization, and idealization. You idealize so much the migration that you forget that the migration happens in a context, and you not talk about the bigger context where the migration, and you don't say that outside the migration you can still experience Mara in these particular ways. And this is also the community experiences that you can have. These are also the issues around the migration that you are aware of. Even as you go for the migration, we are telling you, please behave in these particular ways. Do not do this while you're experiencing a migration. This is the long-term impacts, and this is how it affects the social life of the people. These are the ecological impacts of this kind of behavior. So giving the whole story of place means you must know every aspect of the place. So Poland, that will be my basic, as the background, as the basic thing to do, right? Know your community the same way you know the attractions that you're trying to solve. It will enable you to create balanced content about the place.
Yeah, thank you, Judy. And I would add here that don't rely on ChatGPT, because I'm seeing it everywhere. I recognize the format, the words, and so on. And ChatGPT, it can be a good tool for brainstorming and research, but it has a lot of inaccuracies, like that can be very embarrassing to you as a business if somebody sees them. And it doesn't generally go into a lot of detail either. So that can mislead you. You can think you've done your marketing, but it's going to be as superficial and as bland as, you know, many other tour operators. You know, many people think they can recreate their whole website using ChatGPT. And I think over the next 6 months, it's going to be everywhere. And then I think we're going to see a pushback, aren't we?
Yeah. The next question that we have is, what are some of the challenges facing digital marketing and sustainable tourism, I believe, and their solutions?
Some of the challenges.
Some overview.
Okay, I just need to change my screen option. Have I shared the screen? We
are currently seeing your screen.
Okay. Right, some of the challenges. Well, I think, you know, challenges. I think that the biggest one is ChatGPT and the fact there's so much noise. And I think we have to all dig deep and look for our authentic voices and our USPs. And that also ties in with knowing our customers very, very well. And in our digital marketing training, we often have an exercise where we get people to imagine who their ideal client is, and, you know, not only like where do they live and how old are they, but what are their interests, what drives them, what kind of accommodation do they like staying in, you know, when they're off work, what are their interests, and so on. And I think by having a deeper understanding of our customers and also focusing more on niche experiences, then we can start developing our own voice, and we can set ourselves apart from the competition, because at the moment it's kind of a one-size-fits-all approach to our marketing, isn't it? That we're all saying the same kind of stuff about the same kind of activities. I think there's still plenty of potential for us to cut through the noise, but it does require some work. So I think that's the biggest challenge for me at the moment.
Yeah, and I also think what you're trying to say is that digital marketing should be authentic. Don't just go for what everybody's saying, copy what everybody has done, is what you're telling us. Be authentic. It's there's so much noise and there's so much attraction out there for you to say what everyone is saying and how they're saying it. And I think that's why Charlotte already has some solutions. The same person asked, what are the solutions? So one of the challenges is the copycat mentality that AI also, shortcuts that AI can help. Create authentic content. Yeah, a lot of digital marketing is not creating authentic content. So go out there and create authentic content. And when you're creating authentic content, means what I said earlier on, you need to know the place thoroughly, need to know the place holistically, and not just copy what you have seen other people say about the place and use it to create your content. Then, of course, we have the we have the risk of sanitization of places. You know, we can edit our photos and we can create backgrounds. And we have seen where people have created backgrounds that were not aligned to where they were, because you want the photo to look excellent and look good. When the people get to the place, for example, if I were to see today a photo of the migration with one safari vehicle and a few people on it, and then you're saying come and see the wildebeest migration, I will know that this is a photo that has been edited, because there are few crossing points for the migration. And when the migration is happening, there are always vehicles there. You can't be there by yourself at the migration. It can't be. And I think we're going back to creating, to sharing, also being responsible in how we share and what we share, and not being overly dependable on tools that will make us look better, overly dependable on apps that are going to change the reality. And that's why I think Polanti was talking about stereotyping and idealization. We've got a lot of this happening in digital marketing. Enough time is not being invested to get out the right and correct information in a very responsible way. Then we also have, if you use, if you go to somebody and tell them to do this for you, create content for you and develop it for you, maybe the person does not even have a background in the industry. They are good content creators, but they do not have a background in the industry that you're working in. And if you yourself do not have the eye to question, then you will end up sending the wrong content. And what is one of the solutions to this? I said, you've got to know, but you also got to learn, right? Those who know me know I always say responsible tourism, doing tourism responsibly, is a constant process of learning and learning and relearning, okay? You gotta unlearn, relearn, and learn new things all the time. But you cannot learn if you do not create the space to learn. And I always say that the responsible tourism is not guesswork. There's a lot of information, yes, that is available, but you cannot guess your way through it. You have to be deliberate and intentional on what you want to learn. Yeah, there are many, many resources that are online. There are trainings, affordable, there are free courses, that are online. Teach yourself and do the right thing. That is one of the solutions that you have for the challenges, that cut through the noise by being so well informed. And then you'll know about what you want, and then you will communicate the right thing. Back to you, Charlotte. Sorry for taking it over, but
it's all good.
There was another question on what services or things can we do to promote, to inspire travelers to enjoy a more responsible safari? I think deviating from digital marketing, but yeah, because I get we've had some conversations around responsible tourism. So somebody has asked, what can we do to inspire travelers to enjoy a more responsible or sustainable safari?
Thinking back to what I was saying earlier, when I worked for a tour operator who had these very packed and exhausting itineraries that ticked off many lodges and many activities. I remember my mum saying the first time she came to Uganda how exhausting she found the safari. And one of the things that she really loves about going on holiday is meeting staff in hotels. Like, she'll say to me, do you remember when we spoke to somebody at, you know, this lodge in Ginger? Or she's been bird watching in Ghana. She's like, oh, you know, the staff are great. We went back the next year and they remembered us. So I think you know, we're trying to get people to slow down a bit now, slow travel. We're trying to get people to, if they're going to do a long haul flight, rather than coming for 10 days, come for 2 weeks. So spend more time in the community, get to know the people, because honestly, if you come to Uganda, let's say, I know we've got a lot of Kenyans listening, but you know, Uganda's the country I know best. If you come here on safari and you go to Bwindi, you go to Kibali Forest, you go to Murchison Falls, you go to Queen, it's all going to become a big jumble. You're not going to remember where you've been. You're not going to remember the names of the lodges. So how can you feel that you've really got to know much about Ugandans as a people, and the many different cultures that we have here? You've been to Africa, you've ticked some places off your list, but so I think by encouraging people to have a different approach and a more immersive approach, I mean, it's still a package holiday, but then I think that we can, you know, we can turn this thing around slightly.
Yes. I agree with you, but to Missy J, if I was to add on to what Charlotte has said, I would say one of the things that you should do is to invest in interpretation. Don't use anyone to do your guest hosting. Invest in good interpretation, and a good interpretation enables that immersive experience. And you know, I need to say that guiding and interpretation are different, right? Because a lot of what we see today in guiding is what I call presentation. We've got people who are presenting places. I present to you whatever national park. I now present to you the lions of this park. I now present to you, but there is no deep interpretation. We must invest in interpretation and move away from telling and move away from presentation into interpretation. When we move into that place, we will create a connection between the guests and the places that they visit, because the interaction is more deeper when we move into interpretation and away from telling and presenting places to our guests. So what can you do? Invest in people or resources or who are good at interpretation. Invest in training, invest in learning, invest in unlearning, invest in knowing the places. Somebody cannot enjoy a place that you yourself do not know, right? You take them to a place that you yourself has not deeply experienced, and you want them to enjoy that place because you also don't know where are the nodes in this place that make it unique. You have just picked up what everybody says, the big five are in this place, but you don't know whether it takes 5 days before you can see the big five, that you need to stay there for 5 days or 4 days or 3 days to see the big five. You might not see them. And you go ahead and just say, come see the big five. And you're promoting a 1 night, 1 day safari to come and see the big five. So you get your visitors running around like headless chicken for 2 days. And like Charlotte says, they leave and they can't remember what they saw except what the pictures they took and one conversation that they had. So there's a lot of things. They don't even remember where they were. Yeah, sometimes guests can't even remember the name of the lodge after they leave.
Absolutely,
which
yes.
means which means they did not have enough time. One time I was in a place in Masai Mara, let me amuse you, and the guests, because when they arrived at this lodge, they were told, you know, the Swahili word for welcome. They were like, they were told, karibu, karibu to our camp, karibu to our lodge. I was in that same entourage and vehicles, and I was amused when we were going out and the guests said, are we going back to Karibu? Which means they didn't know the name of the lodge. They thought the name of the lodge was Karibu. Yeah, because the itinerary is so packed, so many things happening. You don't even know where you stayed. Sorry for that. We are exceeding our time. Sonja, thank you so much for sharing with us about Madagascar and how most tourists are traveling in the island, aware of the fragility and their responsibility. We would like to learn more about how that happens. I like the idea of training sustainable tourism influencers. Thank you. What role can emerging digital technologies play in enhancing interpretation and presentation? Joseph, I think we will be opening a whole new conversation. Maybe we take note of that. Michael will take note of that as a topic we can pick on by itself. I think we have identified 3 topics for discussion so far. What are some of the challenges facing digital marketing? I think we've handled that. How can we address the challenges of lack of knowledge of sustainability to marketers and DMOs? Comment on future development of digital marketing in tourism and sustainability. I think, Charlotte, you alluded to future developments, and one of those future developments is certification or accreditation, maybe some codes for doing digital marketing in tourism. The way I mentioned initially that Europe now has a law that will penalize those who have false claims around sustainability, around climate action, around everything to do with green. And maybe there will be awareness followed by legislation. I always say that knowledge and awareness precedes legislation. So there is need for more awareness around this, like what we are doing now is part of creating the awareness that we need to be more responsible. The question of DMOs and marketers is a thorny one, because it's not that DMOs don't know, that their knowledge, that their communication and their marketing collateral and everything they do for marketing should contain some issues around sustainability. But the competition is on growth. The competition is not on value. And I don't blame them. Because they have targets, and the targets are in numbers. They're about growth. And so what do you do?
And there's a tendency to stick with what you know works, isn't there?
Yes. Yeah, that as well.
And I think a related issue is the fact that we don't have enough content creators that are experts in sustainable tourism and the messaging that goes with it. Because I think, to be fair, some tour operators and lodges do know that they have to put that more into their messaging, but they can't find the resource to do that.
Yes. Yeah, and some of them are actually, like you say, comfortable in the place where they are, and they just assume and imagine that it will cost them more to do something different, and they have not attempted to do something differently. I think we can comfortably say here that communicating sustainability effectively will not cost you more. It will not cost you more. It will just cost you a bit of reorganizing the information that you collect and managing that information effectively. Bilha, I think we have mentioned some of the current trends, the influencers are the trends. I mentioned when Charlotte talked about democratization, which means when it comes to digital marketing, everyone in your organization can be a marketer and share the values and the products and the services of your company. So we are seeing more and more engagement. We're seeing more and more openness, not just communicating through one angle, but communicating all angles, a 360 view of the organization. In tourism, we see the front and the back end, and not just the product and the service. Okay. Vincent, you say slow travel is great for sustainability. Yes. Basics of effective digital marketing for tour operators is a common direct marketing question asked by we'll share a PPT. Michael, are you making a comment? That's not a question, right? Those are comments. At Embo, we love to focus on the big 20. We have a safari bingo for this, which makes it fun as opposed to big 5. We want guests to focus on an immersive wildlife experience as opposed to making it a mandatory big 5. Exactly. Thank you for sharing that. This particular lodge that I was giving as an example, that is where all staff are engaged. Like Embo, they have 18 impact activities. So it's not about the big 5. You have 18 impact activities. They don't even call it safari. They have come stay with us, and you will have the opportunity to experience 18 impact activities. Going on a game drive is just one of them. It's not the ultimate thing. And I think that's what we are being told here by Judy from Embo, that is a trend that we are seeing. Yeah. Looking forward to the next presentation. Thank you, Sonja. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Is there a question that we have not addressed? It's been wonderful chatting with you, co-hosting with you, Charlotte. I leave it up to you to give us now your closing remarks.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for taking part and for engaging with us and asking your questions. And I really hope we can do this again, because there's clearly so much more that we all want to talk about. And thank you, Judy. Always a pleasure to talk to you. You've got me all fired up. You've got me thinking about a lot of things that I need to research and add into future trainings. I just wanted to mention a couple of my personal projects. One of them is Sunbird Hill. I live on the edge of Kibale National Park. It's my friend's place. She has an NGO called In the Shadow of Chimpanzees. And if you're into immersive experiences, and I know you are because you're on this webinar, then we'd love you to come and visit. And we do say, please stay a minimum of 10 days. And, I always thought that growing up, that I wanted to go to new places. I guess I had this bucket list mentality myself. And then I got stuck in lockdown on the edge of the national park. And it's amazing how I love it more and more. You might think I'd be bored of it. You might think that I would want to go somewhere new. But I think that really immersing yourself in a place and getting to know the minutiae and hanging out with experts has given me a much bigger and deeper appreciation. And we've noticed that people who come and stay with us and we have a lot of interpretation. I wanted to mention that, we go out and we see a big hole in the ground, and it's like, which animal has been here? Is it a footprint? Is it a pangolin or something? And I think interpretation by these young local site guides it really touches people. Guests go home saying what an amazing team you've had and how much we've learned and so on. So please check out Sunbird Hill. I'll put a note about it in the slides. We're going to be sharing with you afterwards. And also, if you love nature, I'd love you to listen to the East Africa Travel Podcast. That's my latest project. We've got 20 episodes now in season 1. Very much inspired by nature and sustainability and responsible tourism. So thank you again, Judy. I hope to see you again on here one day soon.
Yeah, hope to see you. Thank you so much for honoring the invitation to come and share. A lot of people don't offer this community service where we share knowledge that we have invested in. They would rather be paid to share it. I know we still charge for knowledge, but this is our give back to society. And thank you so much for being part of our give back in this space. This presentation, this whole discussion will be available on our YouTube channel. It is recorded so that we can share with as many people as possible. So you can have it again. If you want to listen to it with your staff members, with your colleagues, you can find it later on today or tomorrow on our YouTube channel. As many of us getting knowledgeable in sustainable tourism is the best that we can do for our industry to secure its future. Also check out this week and next month, we have very short courses, 6 hours. You can register for our courses and getting started with sustainable tourism, working with communities in sustainable tourism, documenting and communicating. We've spoken a lot about communicating sustainability today. We have a short course on that as well. If you visit our pages, you will find all the information. You can register for it. You can boost your knowledge, because I can tell you for free that being ignorant in digital marketing is going to be very expensive in the near future. If you're not being if you're not being fined for violation, you might be caught up in laws on intellectual property. You can be caught up with, like, if you're in Europe, with falsifying information and greenwashing. So let's use digital marketing and digital media, but also let's be careful with it. Let's be responsible how we use it. Like I said at the beginning, it's a very powerful tool for promoting sustainable tourism. It gives each one of us a voice, right? We don't need to get a mic from everyone. We have the mic in our hands, but let's be responsible with the mic in our hands when doing digital marketing. Thank you everyone for coming. Until the next webinar, if you have left your contacts with us, Michael will alert you when we have our next webinar next month. I look forward to seeing you there. In the meantime, put into practice what you have learned today. Get a new network. Charlotte is your new network, but also there are people who have attended today. If you've not met Charlotte before, you have a great network here in Charlotte, but also link up with someone who was in today's webinar, and let's build this strong community of sustainable tourism advocates. Thank you everyone for coming. Michael, if you have collected all the emails, you let me know. Please share your email if it is your first time. If it is your first time to be here, share your email, but I also know you shared them in the registration, and we'll be able to get back to you for the next webinar. Thanks everyone. Bye for now.
Thanks, Gigi. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you so
Bye,
much,
everyone.
Charlotte. Bye everyone. See you next time. Bye.